Welcoming you to this space again, and making a couple links here to this full moon portal. One of the messages that I want to share right off the bat is that there is so much energy available in this cosmos for healing right now. It makes me wonder, is that like directly connected to the amount of ridiculous suffering that's happening on Earth? Like, is this a paradox, an inverse paradox that like the stupider everything gets, for some reason, the more healing energy that's available? I'm not sure. It's just a postulation. I don't even think it matters. But I do want you to know that this message is very important for this time, that like, this isn't the time that you try to go into escapism. This is the time that you cultivate this, like, really what I want to call it is almost a soft vigilance. It's an awareness, right? I don't want to inspire us towards any more alertness than we are already, so like the vigilance in that sense, it has too much stress, associated with it. But it is like this awareness with a slight sense of urgency, like if we're not paying attention, we're definitely not helping. And so we need this attentiveness, but it needs to be soft. So I landed on awareness, a soft awareness. We're in the body. We can be cultivating rest, rejuvenation, healing. And that's my point, that like, what is in ridiculous abundance right now is that rest, repair, healing end of things, also put into the context of seasonal transition. That if we're able to surf this wave of the gentle turn inwards, then that will be helpful. If our foods and our practices can go along with that, even the colors that we surround ourselves with can go along with that, that's going to be very helpful. Remember, even if you're in a warmer place or a cooler place, this is really about the amount of solar energy, right? So solar energy is waning in the moment. We've just passed that threshold of equal day and night. And so night takes over from here. And whose domain is night? All the fun people. Yes. In this capitalist grind, we are programmed to put work down at night, although, we are also strongly encouraged to work as many hours as possible. But let's go with some slightly back in the day vibes. Like, you would put the work down. It's nighttime. We come into rest. We come to the hearth. We come to the family. Like, this is time for creativity and play and rest and integration. We can think like that. So what I'm really more thinking about is the domain of the goddess. Yes, the nighttime for her practices. And tomorrow opens her 9 nights portal. She's like, yeah, do what you do in the day, but my party happens at night. In that tantric context, night is when we're going to shift from Pingala Nadi to Ida Nadi, from sun channel into more of a dominant moon channel. This is the landscape of emotions, of feelings. And all the indigenous spiritual practices root into feeling. It's not just intellectual pursuit. There's a place for it, but it's not dominated by it, such as we find in the Western views of things. So, coming into the nighttime, but it only gets more and more night as we now move from the autumn equinox, to the winter solstice. So if you could come into seasonal consciousness, right? If you could bring seasonal consciousness as a lifestyle design tool, then we bring our activities into harmony. When we're thinking about health, um, later October, November, once we're into like the true kind of metal phase, autumn, with the dry air conditions already drying. But just wait, it's going to get really dry, even though we're very wet with flooding and this and that. We're sort of more talking about air quality here. This is one of the most, if not the most challenging time of year for any sort of respiratory conditions. So that could be like your asthma, hay fever, COPD, bronchial kind of things. So now is when you start making adjustments around what your body will need for 3 to 4 weeks from now. It does. So what fun transitions, invitations into the nighttime. And I mean, don't you think that's enough? No, haven't you noticed? It's like a pile it on kind of moment, there's never just like one aspect doing the thing right now. It's like 50 aspects at once. So here we are in the new moon solar eclipse portal. I just read a fantastic article by one of the astrologers that I follow explaining eclipses. Maybe I'll share that link. Her name is Juliana Swanson. And she just gave a real like nuts and bolts of like how eclipses are caused, a little bit of the mythology around them, and what's the significance. Like this, we can say eclipses are like scissors, so changefulness. And you might say, didn't we just have an eclipse 2 weeks ago? Yes, we did. Because eclipses, they call them seasons. Like they'll come in pairs or even triplets like this. So you got a pair, that one will be a solar and one will be a lunar. We're into the solar eclipse at the new moon cycle. We've just had a couple planetary conjunctions that I think are really positive. For the collective, positive for me personally. That doesn't make them easy, but positive influences nonetheless. And one of those happened on the 29th of September. So there's just everything's loaded right now in the sidereal sign of Virgo. And Sun, Mercury, and the south node of the moon, Ketu, they've been having a party together for the last few days. And they're not like the worst combination in the world, but it's energized. There's a little bit of volatility in the new moon chart, some of the relationships. Mars is in the mix, Saturn is in the mix, Jupiter's in the mix. You're like, who's not in the mix? Yeah, pretty much. It's a new moon. The moon is in the mix, and who is moon hanging out with? And, all sorts of things. Like only like Rahu is calmed down for a second, it's like not in the mix. So Pluto's in the mix. Yeah, Pluto's in the mix. So I wanted to say something though, because sometimes I'll do this. I'll just read I have like 3 or 4 astrologers that I read their blogs. So this morning in preparation for this circle, I jammed through 5 different astrologers' blogs like this. That's pretty normal for me. And I've noticed a couple of things. First of all, I want to shout out my favorite tropical astrologer, who's Channy Nichols, legend. I just feel like Channy has been just like a stand-up citizen right now on how they are using their platform and what they are speaking to and the way that they use creativity and playfulness, whoever is their team is like wildly kick-ass. And just how unabashedly she is speaking to climate change / collapse, genocide, humanity, the celestials, and doesn't let up on the pedal. Doesn't like, oh, maybe 1 week messaging, but then like not messaging, and then again, no. And responsive as well. I'm totally having like a deja vu moment right now. So that's fun also. I use those as confirmations of important things, right? So I just want to shout out like, yes, there's a way to do this and to be a responsible astrologer. Okay, because one of the things that I'm noticing is this like doomsday astrology talk that's out there, and it's in the hands of less skilled, less trained people. I actually noticed like a random post by someone I know who's a neighbor, like a community psychologist, social worker, and they just really made for me a very reckless statement about like, if you feel like you're being affected by this eclipse, like this eclipse is crazy and it's making all this crazy energy and there's just things happening. And it was very sensational and doomsday. And I was just like, wow, is this really, like the best message right now when actually this isn't your wheelhouse? So just awareness piece on the advice that you follow. Choose reliable sources. Similarly, when I was breezing through these 5 vlogs today, I noticed that there's a couple of the astrologers I follow that are really fixated on the astrology of the United States and like doomsday predictions of America falling apart, imploding. I don't know, maybe 15-year-old Yoli might be into that kind of like storyline, but I gotta tell you, like present day Yoli, like I don't want America to implode. I don't want to live in a country that's living in anarchy and social chaos. I don't believe that we are currently emotionally evolved enough, like emotionally developed enough to handle massive and drastic change. So I don't appreciate so much these emphasis. So when I'm naming like Pluto and this moon in particular, this moon portal, Pluto's transit, Pluto's about to come out of retrograde transit, so it's going to go back over a pathway that it just went over. This is going to resonate with the United States birth chart. And yes, it means change. And yes, it means upheaval. And yes, it means transformation. And a lot of that has to do with like government and secrets and deep government, like CIA, dark stuff, end of things like that. But like, what helpful? Like, how is this helpful? How is it helpful to focus on what ifs? How is it helpful to keep promoting tension around breakdown? You're not helping people get prepared for any amount of breaking down. What I like to think is coming in the pipeline is transformation. This country is roughly 250 years old. That seems to be about the modern day civilizational count is about 250 years for like your civilizational arc. Yes, it's time for some sort of retrospective analysis and update to the democratic experiment. But the message needs to sound exciting. The message needs to sound positive. The message needs to be around how you continue every day to prepare yourself for change. And guess what? We can distill that even down to just the present moment. How are you preparing yourself for seasonal change? Right? How are you seeing change coming about in your sphere? How can you support and resource yourself around that change? Yeah, we have an eclipse right now, and a new moon, and a Sun Ketu Mercury conjunction in sidereal Virgo, and Mars is about to move into like a debilitated placement, and mid-month the Sun is also going to move into a debilitated placement. Okay, so there's going to be a lot more inspiration, longer nights, move towards yin. Okay, what can we distill? Oh, we're gonna be resonating more with the like inner, darker, qualities of oneself. As if the whole collective is going into that energy, that we're all gonna be resonating with the darker emotional feelings, inner qualities of self. That could be an exciting thing. I just feel like I have to close this door. Sorry, this is so, I don't know, you can hear it, but it's loud for me. Right? And so, of course, these goddess archetypes are going to come into the scene right now. We need our superhero archetypes to show up. And who's showing up tomorrow in the evening? Ma Durga, the superheroist of them all. With 8 arms, riding a lion, slaying the demon Mahishasura. Who are the demons? All that dark stuff that's inside. And greed and anger and avarice and envy and jealousy and attachment. Yes, 6 poisons. Yes. And so what should we do? She says we should read her text and we should meditate with her and we should do fun rituals and we should party. That's the formula. Yes. So you're going to have to also be discerning with the messages that you're receiving and the voices that are speaking, that like, yes, we need to be praying, then let's get praying. We need to be meditating, then let's get meditating. Like, we don't have to make this harder than it needs to be. But if we're going to pay attention like to always the most sensational interpretation of these celestial events, then better you don't pay attention to astrology at all. Like, skip it. If it's going to be continued tools for you to be crazy, skip it. Ignore it. Like this, and when the prediction, like when I read something, I read, oh no, there's going to be a really difficult time. I have a choice then and there to invest in that prediction or not. You could be way more discerning. You don't have to think, the proclamation has been made, so I have no will, I have no say, I have no action. No, think of it more like, I'm looking at the weather pattern forming, but the wind direction could change. The moisture thing could not congeal. That's why they're like 40% chance of rain. You're like, do I bring the umbrella? I don't. 20% chance or meh. 80% chance of, yeah, I'm gonna bring the umbrella. It's like that. It's like suggested things that might happen, that could strongly happen. These are the themes. And remember, it's all just data from the ancestors. One of the astrologers that I read today went into Babylonian references. Oh, well, in this Babylonian text, it says in 155 type alliances of moons. I don't know, I'm not a Babylonian astrologer, so but they went into Babylonian reference. It's like, right, critical thinking brain, turn on. This person is writing a blog post, they're making a point, and in Western academic fashion, they're going to draw their references to support their point. They're not saying, this is my point, but these are also other possible points. Because nobody wants to hear from an astrologer that's like, maybe. No. You're like, no, you give me the definite thing, but then to my point, then you've invested in the thing. Now it's real. It's not real because the astrologer says it. It's real the moment you hook into it and decide that prediction is definitely real. Like this. So I'm speaking to a mindset that we have to cultivate around divination, astrology, oracle, future telling. These are beautiful gifts from the ancestors. I use them every day, like all day long, in fact, like this. But it's about your level of attachment to them. The second you attach to them, they're not tools of liberation. They're tools of control and suppression. Because now you're hooked into somebody else's interpretation of them. You're hooked into somebody else's prediction of what's going to happen. And so I've been watching this pattern for 6-8 months. I haven't spoken to it yet, but today I guess I'm on the soapbox about it. Because it's just like, we need to, first of all, not all of us need to be scholars of everything. We need to be able to trust in somebody else's scholarship. But I'm seeing this pattern and I don't like it so much. And then I'm seeing ones that I do like. I like how Pamela McDonough, Moon Dance Astrology, I like how she stays in her lane. I like Chani. Chani's like rock star level, and I like the scholarship of Juliana Sonson. She's Astral Harmony, like this, but I can still see these intentionalities in people's work. And we have to be so aware like this. So I hope some of that's making some sense. I wanted to share just a little bit more from favorite book about this moon. Like, let's tune into like the moon part, because moon means mind. Like, where are our minds going? What's the influence on moon right now? In Hasta, in the nakshatra of Hasta, which is symbolized by the hands, like this. And so, work of the hands, creativity. This is a super creative place in the zodiac. It's really a lot of fun. So, some little things to think about, like this. Mercury is exalted here. Mercury is in Hasta at the moment. So we're getting a lot of that good, like, kind of movement around communication and speech, transportation technology. The presiding deity is Savitar, the sun god, particularly as the reservoir of all generative energy in the universe. This is an extremely creative energy. The word hasta means hand, the human hand, or more specifically, the palm of the hand, through which the entire individuality of the person can be read. Hasta gives self-reliance and control over the outgoing cosmic energy that is always ready to proceed further. Think expansion of the universe, like it's always expanding. Various impediments arise in this enterprise as natural reactions to it. Whenever any kind of kinetic energy moves over static matter, there is resistance to it. Such an individualistic approach to life as is natural under this asterism must bear this kind of confrontation. The inner faculties can develop only through such an exercise. How interesting. The hand stands for prowess, or the capacity which enables the individual to withstand confrontation. The hand also refers to full confidence in the soul's capabilities to march ahead. This self-reliance springs from the fact that the individual is aware of his own faculties through an understanding of his real nature and the laws of the universe. This is the basic and most important characteristic of Hasta. Hasta contains within it an immense regenerative power. Savitar, its ruling deity, is the form of the sun god that imparts creative and transforming energy. This energy enables life to grow and assume innumerable shapes. The cycle of birth, growth, decay, and death shows the transformation of the energy content of the incarnate soul. This asterism impels the individual under its impact to change, take new shapes, and grow. This process of growth results from the inner urge to march ahead while external conditions exert resistance. Thus, conflict and different levels of crises are natural features of this lunar mansion. The impediments, difficulties, and obstructions which are experienced occur due to opposing forces impinging on the individual. Some resonances with what I've been sharing. The ruler of this asterism, who's the moon, and the rulers of its 4 quarters. So each of these divides into 4 phases of time. This, the quick-moving planets, Mercury, connected with the regeneration, readjustment of the outer sheets of the soul, and aid in its concretization, individualization of material. Well, that's something separate. Okay. Ooh, on a spiritual level, Hasta is the seat of the interplay of nature's finer forces. The 2 basic impulses in nature are attraction and repulsion. The expression of positive and negative energy impulses, magnetism, Mapairavi. The duality is the primary cause of all movement and growth in the universe. The universe itself is circumscribed by the 12 radiations of the cosmic creative force, which astrologically is reflected through the 12 signs of the zodiac. Creative forces. This basic differentiation results from the 4 primary motivating causes in the universe, namely kama, desire, artha, purposeful activity, dharma, sustaining principles, and moksha, liberation. These 4 impetuses motivate the incarnating soul. Yeah, this is basically the philosophy behind astrology. They are affected by the 3 primary attributes of all activity: sattva, harmony, purity or goodness; rajas, or self-seeking activity; and tamas, or inertia. The hand succinctly represents these forces, so the 3 creative forces, or Trigona model. The symbolic hand can refer to the actual organ and its operation by which the individuality of the person is expressed. It also suggests a spatial dimension because the most fundamental units of measurement are based on the hand. The 2 hands represent the positive and negative energy currents, centripetal and centrifugal forces, attraction and repulsion, Purusha and Prakriti, the male and female aspects of all, let's say masculine and feminine aspects of all existence. There's more. There's like the 4 fingers. There's the 12 signs of the zodiac. There's a lot here explaining the whole thing. Okay, so this asterism operates the entire universe, on the entire universe. And this, I think, is important. It functions both on subjective and objective planes of existence. Hasta is said to represent duration or time itself. Ooh, there's a lot going on here. All activities can fructify only in the time-space continuum. Ooh, that's deep, y'all. So this is the teaching of karma, meaning action. That like everything has to come into the gross physical realm of existence in order for it to bear fruit. So karma, we are often thinking of karma in terms of the action reaction or action outcome cycle, but karma just literally means action with this. So in consciousness, there's no real difference between space and time, nor between subjective and the objective. Like when we go into deep sleep or the deeper experiences of Yoga Nidra. There is either the complete negation of all manifestation or everything is pure reality. On the ordinary level, there's a field in which action occurs. And Hasta refers to the field of action. This action, I'm going to pause it there. So we are kind of back to these key questions of inquiry. And that is, there was so much there. I like edited a lot out. What's changing in your life right now? How do you approach the changefulness of the season? What's the season itself inspiring changefulness towards? We don't know. We're in the middle of the eclipse. We'll find out later, sometime between now and 6 months to a year. We'll know a little bit more of like, what was changing and shifting at this time? But maybe there's a little inkling. Maybe there's something that when you do float into the subconscious mind, you're like, oh, like we're in the liminal, like, look, that's the thing that's going to come into fructification next. That's the thing that's going to come forward. And that's a great example of making predictions, right? You can see the thing. You're like, oh, that's going to come through sometime. Like that's going to come forward. The exact timing of it, the circumstances that will be when it comes through, that's the part that you might not know. Now, there are those master astrologers and master psychics that could make the prediction, but let's remind ourselves that all future prediction is just possibility. There could always be something else in that deep subconsciousness or consciousness that brings some affect to it coming out into the open. So how can we remain open, aware, relaxed, receptive, so that we can hear everything that's calling and then be discerning of, okay, here's the 8 things that are calling. I've got energy for 4 of them. Here's how I'm practicing energy management in this season. So I hope some of that is helpful in there and inspiring. And we can take a little pivot if there's some sharing that you'd like to do yourself, if it's sharing on these ponderings on this moon, on some of these inspirations, that is welcome. So thank you for listening.